Imagine a land where ancient civilizations flourished, where mighty empires clashed, and where one of the most brutal independence wars in modern history unfolded. This is Algeria, a nation whose story spans from prehistoric cave paintings to becoming Africa's largest country by land area. Today we're diving deep into the complete history of Algeria, a tale of resilience, conquest, and ultimate liberation that shaped not just North Africa, but the entire world. Long before the pyramids of Egypt were built, long before Rome became an empire, Algeria was already home to thriving human settlements. Archaeological evidence reveals that humans inhabited this region nearly 1.8 million years ago, making it one of humanity's earliest homes. Stone tools discovered across the Sahara tell us that our ancestors were already crafting sophisticated implements when much of the world remained uninhabited. Around 6000 BCE, as the Sahara was transforming from a green, fertile landscape into the desert we know today, a remarkable civilization emerged. The Berbers, or Amazigh people as they call themselves, developed a complex society that would become the backbone of North African identity. These weren't simple nomads, but sophisticated farmers, traders, and artisans who established permanent settlements and developed their own languages, customs, and governance systems. What makes the Berbers truly fascinating is their diversity. They weren't a single tribe, but rather a collection of related peoples, speaking different dialects and following various traditions. Some were pastoral nomads who moved with their herds across vast territories, while others built permanent settlements and became skilled agriculturalists. The famous cave paintings of Tassili N'Ajjer, which date back thousands of years, show us a world where these early Algerians depicted their daily lives, their animals, and their spiritual beliefs in stunning detail. But Algeria's strategic location would soon attract the attention of one of antiquity's greatest maritime powers. The Phoenicians, master traders of the ancient Mediterranean, arrived around 1100 BCE and established trading posts along the coast. The most famous of these was Carthage, located in modern-day Tunisia, which would become the center of a commercial empire that stretched across the Mediterranean. By the 3rd century BCE, something extraordinary was happening in Algeria. The Berber tribes were uniting under powerful kings to form the Kingdom of Numidia. This wasn't just a loose confederation, but a sophisticated state that controlled trade routes, maintained armies, and played a crucial role in the power struggles of the ancient world. Numidia initially comprised the territory that now makes up modern-day Algeria, but later expanded across what is today known as Tunisia, Libya, and some parts of Morocco. The Numidians were renowned throughout the ancient world for their cavalry, considered among the finest horsemen of their time. Their light, mobile forces could strike quickly and disappear into the landscape, making them formidable allies and dangerous enemies. The most famous Numidian king was Massinissa, who ruled from 238 to 148 BCE. Under his leadership, Numidia became a major power broker in the Mediterranean, playing Rome against Carthage in the Punic Wars. But this game of ancient diplomacy would eventually backfire. When Carthage fell to Rome in 146 BCE, Numidia's independence was numbered. The Romans, never content to leave powerful neighbors unconquered, gradually absorbed Numidian territory. By 40 CE, what had once been the proud kingdom of Numidia had become Roman provinces. Yet the Berber spirit of independence never died. Throughout the Roman period, revolts and uprisings continued to challenge foreign rule, a pattern that would repeat itself for centuries to come. The year 640 CE marked a turning point in Algerian history. Arab armies, energized by the new faith of Islam, swept across North Africa like a tidal wave. But conquering Algeria proved far more difficult than the Arab generals had anticipated. The Berbers, fierce defenders of their homeland, fought back with a determination that surprised their conquerors. The most famous of these resistance fighters was a woman known as Kahina, or the sorceress. Leading a confederation of Berber tribes, she inflicted several crushing defeats on the Arab armies and temporarily halted their advance. Her story has become legendary, symbolizing the enduring spirit of Algerian resistance that would resurface again and again throughout history. Yet the Islamic conquest brought more than just military occupation. It introduced a new religion, a new language, and new ideas that would gradually transform Algerian society. Many Berbers converted to Islam, but they did so on their own terms, often maintaining their traditional customs and governance structures. This fusion of Arab and Berber cultures created something unique, a distinctly Maghrebi Islamic civilization that differed from its counterparts in the Middle East. The 11th century witnessed another wave of change when the Hilalian tribes, nomadic Arabs from the Arabian Peninsula, migrated to North Africa. Unlike the earlier Arab conquerors who were primarily soldiers and administrators, these were entire tribes seeking new lands. Their arrival accelerated the Arabization of Algeria as Arabic language and customs spread more deeply into Berber society. Between the 11th and 13th centuries, Algeria became the heartland of powerful Islamic empires. The Almoravids and Almohads created vast territories stretching from Spain to North Africa, establishing cities like Tlemcen as centers of scholarship and commerce. However, by the 13th century, these empires had fragmented into smaller kingdoms, leaving Algeria vulnerable to new threats. The 16th century brought the Ottoman Empire to Algeria, but not through traditional conquest. Instead, it began with corsairs like Hayreddin Barbarossa, who established Ottoman rule in 1516. Under Ottoman control, Algeria became a regency that maintained considerable independence while acknowledging Ottoman sovereignty. Algerian corsairs operated from fortified ports, capturing European ships and bringing immense wealth to the region. The Ottoman period saw significant urban development, with cities like Algiers growing into major centers of trade and Islamic learning. The famous Kasbah of Algiers, with its maze-like streets and whitewashed buildings, largely dates from this period. However, by the 18th century, Ottoman power was waning as European navies grew stronger and the corsair economy became less profitable. On July 5, 1830, French forces landed near Algiers, beginning what would become one of the longest and most brutal colonial occupations in modern history. The pretext was a diplomatic incident involving a debt dispute, but the real motivation was France's desire to restore its prestige after the Napoleonic Wars and to establish a presence in North Africa. The French expected a quick victory, but they had underestimated Algerian resistance. While the Ottoman government in Algiers quickly capitulated, the real fight was just beginning. In the interior, a young religious leader named Abd al-Qadir ibn Muhyi al-Din was organizing the tribes for a holy war against the invaders. Abd al-Qadir was no ordinary resistance fighter. Educated in Islamic law and Sufi mysticism, he combined religious authority with military genius. Between 1832 and 1847, he created what was essentially an independent Algerian state, complete with its own army, administration, and diplomatic relations with foreign powers. His forces, using guerrilla tactics that would later inspire independence movements worldwide, repeatedly defeated French armies in the rugged terrain of the Algerian interior. The French response was devastating. General Thomas Bugeaud, appointed to crush the resistance, implemented a strategy of total war. Villages were burned, crops destroyed, and entire populations forcibly relocated. The French introduced a policy called razzia, systematic raids designed to terrorize the civilian population into submission. It was warfare aimed not just at defeating an army, but at destroying a way of life. By 1848, after 18 years of almost continuous warfare, France had conquered most of Algeria. The cost was staggering. Hundreds of thousands of Algerians had died, and the traditional social and economic structures of the country lay in ruins. But this was only the beginning of the colonial nightmare. French colonialism in Algeria was unique in its scale and permanence. Over 1 million European settlers made Algeria their home, while the colonial government implemented systematic land confiscation. The most fertile territories were seized for European settlers, while Algerians were forced onto marginal lands. Traditional Islamic law was replaced by French civil law, and Arabic was banned from schools and government offices. For the Algerian population, colonial rule meant systematic discrimination and economic exploitation. Muslims were denied French citizenship unless they renounced Islamic law, a condition few accepted. The colonial period brought some modernization, railways, expanded cities, and modern agriculture, but these developments primarily benefited the European minority. The events of May 8, 1945, marked a crucial turning point. As Europe celebrated the end of World War II, Algerians in Sétif organized a peaceful demonstration demanding independence. The colonial authorities responded with brutal violence, killing an estimated 45,000 Algerians. This massacre convinced many that peaceful resistance was futile, leading to the formation of the National Liberation Front, FLN, in 1954. The Algerian War was a complex conflict characterized by guerrilla warfare and war crimes, transforming from a colonial uprising into a full-scale war that would reshape both Algeria and France. The conflict's brutality shocked the world and exposed the moral bankruptcy of colonial rule. The French military, frustrated by their inability to defeat the FLN through conventional means, resorted to increasingly brutal tactics. Torture became systematic, entire villages were destroyed, and the population was herded into concentration camps euphemistically called regroupment centers. The famous Battle of Algiers, 1956-1957, saw French paratroopers use torture and assassination to break the FLN's urban networks, tactics that would later be exposed in the famous film by Guillaume Pontecorvo. But the FLN proved equally ruthless. They assassinated Algerians who collaborated with the French, killed European civilians, and fought a parallel war against rival nationalist groups. The conflict became a civil war within a war, as different Algerian factions fought for control of the independence movement. Women played a crucial role in the struggle, often serving as couriers, bomb makers, and fighters. Figures like Jamila Bouhired became symbols of resistance, their stories inspiring solidarity movements across the developing world. The war in Algeria became a cause célèbre for anti-colonial movements globally, with support coming from Egypt, Yugoslavia, and newly independent nations across Africa and Asia. The international dimension of the conflict gradually turned against France. The United Nations repeatedly condemned French actions in Algeria, while the Cold War superpowers, despite their other differences, both opposed European colonialism. France found itself increasingly isolated as the war dragged on. By 1962, the war had reached a stalemate. The French military had prevented the FLN from achieving a decisive victory, but they had also failed to crush the independence movement. The human cost was staggering, with estimates ranging from 350,000 to 1.5 million dead, making it one of the bloodiest decolonization wars in history. The solution came from an unexpected source. Charles de Gaulle, the French president, who had originally promised to keep Algeria French, gradually came to realize that the war was unwinnable. Despite fierce opposition from the French military and the Pied Noir population, he began secret negotiations with the FLN. On March 18, 1962, France and the leaders of the Front de Libération Nationale, FLN, signed a peace agreement to end the 7-year Algerian War, signaling the end of 130 years of colonial French rule in Algeria. The Evian Accords, as they were known, provided for an immediate ceasefire and a referendum on independence. The referendum, held on July 1, 1962, was a foregone conclusion. Nearly 99% of Algerians voted for independence. On July 3, 1962, Algeria became a sovereign nation, but the celebration was tempered by the magnitude of the challenges ahead. The joy of independence was quickly overshadowed by the scale of challenges facing the new nation. Algeria in 1962 was devastated by war, with most infrastructure destroyed, the economy in ruins, and nearly 90% of the population illiterate. The departure of the European population left a critical skills shortage. The FLN, united against France, quickly fractured into competing factions. Ahmed Ben Bella became the first president, but was overthrown in 1965 by Houari Boumediene. Despite political instability, Algeria made remarkable progress, nationalizing the oil industry and using petroleum revenues for massive development projects in education and healthcare. However, the promise of independence wasn't fully realized. The FLN established a one-party state while corruption squandered oil wealth. The 1980s brought economic crisis, and the 1990s saw Algeria descend into civil war as Islamist groups challenged the government. This conflict claimed an estimated 200,000 lives before ending in the early 2000s. Today, Algeria stands as Africa's largest country by land area and one of the world's major oil and gas producers. Its history, spanning from ancient Berber kingdoms to modern independence struggles, has shaped not only the nation itself, but influenced decolonization movements worldwide. The Algerian War became a template for liberation struggles across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, while its tactics and strategies continue to be studied in military academies and political science departments globally. The legacy of this tumultuous history lives on in modern Algeria. The struggle for independence created a national identity forged in the crucible of war, but it also left deep scars that continue to influence politics and society. The centralized state established by the FLN, the role of the military in politics, and the ongoing tension between Islamic and secular values all trace their roots back to the independence struggle. Algeria's story is ultimately one of resilience, a testament to the power of human determination in the face of seemingly impossible odds. From the ancient Berbers who resisted Roman conquest to the modern freedom fighters who defeated one of the world's great colonial powers, Algerians have repeatedly demonstrated their refusal to accept foreign domination. Their history reminds us that the arc of history, while long, ultimately bends toward justice and freedom. As Algeria continues to navigate the challenges of the 21st century, from economic diversification to political reform, it carries with it the lessons of its remarkable past. The nation that once stood at the crossroads of ancient civilizations now stands at the threshold of a new chapter in its long and extraordinary history. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos.